So we're in very interesting territory here about what happens, what death is about, and the notion that it's a full stop is not very rational. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why the force of our own latent tendencies, our own psychological tendencies, cannot be the catalyst for something else. I mean, it's rather like the flavour of your dreams, you know. Your dreams seem to have their own independent life. I mean, we can take sole responsibility for our dreams, but why do they give us such a hard time sometimes? So it's an interesting thing. We can say, well, there's the force of our psychological tendencies, perhaps our latent tendencies, our unconscious tendencies are governing the quality of the dream. And all that exists in what's called here Pradhana, which we could say, which I think we could call potentiality. It carries like the momentum for the new dream creation, or the new life. It's described here as ethereal or unmanifest nature. It can be regarded both as sentient and insentient, or neither, I suppose. It is responsible both for memory and its absence, and therefore for the next birth. One of the themes of the Yoga Vasistha is that birth and creation depends on memory. And it's obviously memory in a much bigger sense than we use the term. You know, like we use the term memory just in terms of what we did yesterday or so on. But it's memory in terms of, I would say, the unconscious and our deepest tendencies, our deepest impressions, memory in the form of impressions. When that ethereal nature becomes awakened, and when in its consciousness the ego sense manifests itself, it gives rise to the five elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether, space-time continuum, and all the rest of the material needed for physical birth and existence. I think we should say more accurately that it gives rise to the notion of all these things. These then condense into their material counterparts. They don't really condense, of course, they simply appear that way to the individualized psyche, the jiva. During dreaming and waking states, they give rise to the feeling of a physical body. But in fact, all this constitutes the ethereal body of the jiva. The ethereal body of the jiva. I suppose the ethereal body of the jiva is really like your dream world, the dreamscape. When you're dreaming, it's like what I was saying previously about how it's all aspects of yourself. Not your conscious self necessarily, it's just, but it is, you could say, although a lot of the dream elements might seem alien and frightening and antagonistic, they are all elements of the dream self. I think we can say that. So in the same way, what we call reality is all aspects of the individualized psyche, or the jiva. I'm just trying to get away from this idea of jiva as soul, you know, some sort of ghostly counterpart to ourself, to our body. When the idea, I am the body, becomes deeply ingrained, this same ethereal body develops the physical characteristics of a body, like the eyes, etc. Though all this happens only like vibrations of movements in air. Even if all these appear to be real, they are as real or unreal as the experience of sexual pleasure in a dream. The experience of sexual pleasure in a dream can be very real, and can have a very real effect. But it's only a dream, only a dream. Whenever one dies, there itself, that jiva sees all this happening. In that space, in that field of consciousness itself, he imagines, this is the world, this am I. And believing that he is born, he experiences the world, which is nothing but space. He, the jiva, is space too. He thinks, he is my father, she is my mother, this is my wealth. I have done this wonderful deed. Alas, I have sinned, he imagines. I have become a small child, and now I have become a youth, and sees all these in his heart. This forest, known as creation, arises in the heart of every jiva. Wherever a person dies, there and then he sees this forest. In this manner, countless worlds born in the consciousness of individual jivas have in time vanished. Even so, countless Brahmas, Rudras, Vishnus and sons have vanished. In this manner, the illusory perception of creation has taken place countless times, is taking place now, and will take place in the future. For all this is non-different from the movement of thought, which, again, is not independent of the infinite consciousness. In reality, what is mental activity but consciousness? And that consciousness is the supreme truth. So this is trying to explain things in terms of the jiva. And I don't think it's very helpful, really. The jiva is one of these notions of Hindu metaphysics, which is an attempt to incorporate it here. But I just wondered if we could rephrase some of this. Because what happens after death, basically a new dream begins. If we take this as one dream, a new dream begins. And there's not necessarily, I don't think there's any connection necessarily between one and the other. I mentioned before about my experience of a short life as a prince who died by an arrow wound. I don't think that I had any connection to that prince, except I shared a similar sense of being. But I suspect that's the same sense of being as you have or anybody else. There obviously was some kind of continuity, but I don't think it's anything worth making any deal out of. All there is this sense of being which takes on different external environments and also different psychological makeups. The process of individuality becomes more defined. It's only there in potential form before birth, and it's hardly even there when in the baby. It's only something which becomes focused as life goes on. The baby doesn't even have any body awareness. Maybe young kids don't have any body awareness. All these things are gradually learnt. We're learnt to think of ourselves as having a body. We're learnt to think of there being we learn to think of there being a world out there. All these things are learnt things. They're not actual facts. There are conventions that we have learnt. They are not reality.